Excellent. Thank you, Mariah. I'm excited to be here with you all. She shared with me so much about the group that she works with, and this is going to be a fun time for you guys. Despite the pandemic that we're going through, I totally understand that this is a unique time, and so hopefully the information that we share today is going to be beneficial to you all. Um, First, tell me if you can see my screen. Okay, can you guys see just the slides? All right, I see the thumbs up. That's good. All right. And we're just going to be talking about behind the scenes of video streaming. And basically, what that involves is what does it take to make it work? What does it take to make it happen? And my goal today is to help you all go to the next level. And in doing so, taking your streams that you currently do, if you do them at all, or actually just jumping into the stream of streaming and getting familiar with the process and understanding more about which programs might work best for you all, identifying the tools that you need to do your video stream, and then determining which tools are best for your needs. So we're going to do a real basic presentation today. My goal is for you all to interact and engage, and as much as I share, I would love to hear just as much from you all. So we're going to break it down into a pretty manageable way that I think will make sense. So the plan is going to be, we're going to learn about me for 5 minutes at the most, I promise. And then we'll talk about some programs that I would recommend. So we're going to highlight 3 different programs that we'll spend about 15 minutes on, just sharing about them, the pros and cons and so forth. And then we're going to open it up for questions. This is going to be unique because the goal is going to be that you would actually take the time in the middle of the presentation. If something stands out to you or something that you have a question about, just type it out in the chat room. Mariah's going to be helping to include that in the conversation when we do take that first break after this first half of the information. And we're going to just address those. She'll read them out loud. Those who are listening by phone, we'll let you just share those out loud at the time. And then we'll jump back into the second half where we'll talk about tools and hardware. And I'm just going to highlight 3 different tools that you can use to actually help take your streaming, if you're doing it currently, take it to the next level and kind of pique your interest into some ideas that you may not have thought about before. And then also open up after that with some more Q&A. All right. So let's go ahead into.
Hey, Garry.
Sure.
It sounds like I'm getting some
feedback
response in the chat that people can't hear you. Is that just one person, or can everyone?
Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? I got a few thumbs up. Would it help if I talked louder? Maybe. I'm seeing. Are you able to hear me okay, Mariah?
Yeah, I can hear you, and it looks like most people can hear you. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to be privately chatting with this person to try to troubleshoot with them.
Cool. Just keep me posted. Yeah, just chime in if you need to, and I'll definitely figure out what I can do on my end to help.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So this is our basic plan. Like I said, it's going to be really simple, but hopefully very impactful. That's going to be the main goal. So let's go ahead into that little 5 minutes I promised you about myself. I've been married for 15 plus years. We actually got married on Christmas Day, my wife and I. This is my beautiful wife, Chavos. One thing that is important for you guys to understand as I talk about this, I actually love technology. I love the idea. I'm passionate about understanding it, and I love to train others. So I can get carried away. I actually was on a consultation Zoom meeting with a client, and it started out to be 2 hours. It ended up being 4 hours because I started trying to figure out some other things to help her get off the ground with her podcast. And she just goes, Garry, I can't take it anymore. I got to stop. I got to stop. So I promise I won't do that to you guys today. I've promised that and guarantee that I would give no more than an hour, and given in that 30 minutes of me and 30 minutes of you, so we can get some feedback and hopefully address a lot of questions and thoughts and ideas that you all may have. And 15 years in corporate America is something that I'm excited about as well. I actually worked at Time Warner Cable for 15 years in 3 different departments. So it felt like I was at a different company every 4 or 5 years or so. And so it was a great experience. And I was telling Mariah earlier that when I left, it was tears. I was in tears, and I didn't promise I wasn't going to cry, but my team, they were a little bit saddened as well. So it was bittersweet because upon leaving, I actually left to start my own business. So I've been an entrepreneur now for the last 4.5 years as a consultant, a videographer, and a photographer. And I'm also an active volunteer pretty much my entire life, but currently I'm a mentor to 6 young men with a program called High Aspirations. And I currently do not have a Facebook account. But don't stop, don't turn off your stream and say this guy didn't have a clue what he's talking about. As I said, I love technology, so I'm not going to be talking so much about the social media aspect of it because that's kind of a different conversation. This is really behind the scenes of what it takes to get to that social media platform. So we're going to be taking that approach to it. Now, I will tell you that I've not had a Facebook account for just a year now, so I did have a social media account, and a lot of the things that I'm going to tell you guys about today, I actually utilized and put into practice at that time. And I still do it to this day, but I do it on my own website and other platforms and things like that, like YouTube and so forth. All right. So that's my 5 minutes of fame from me. Let's jump into the things that are most important for you all. And let's start out just talking about behind the scenes of these programs. As I promised, there'll be 3 different programs we're going to focus on. In the chat room, tell me if you've heard of any of these 3. Tell me, Mariah, have you heard of Zoom, Switcher, OBS? So if you've heard of all of them, just say all. If you've heard of none of them, put none. But if you've heard of 1 or 2, just type out which 1 or 2 that you've heard of, because I want you all to be comfortable using that chat room as thoughts come up. We want you to type those questions or those comments in there as well so we can address those midway through and then as we wrap up as well. So Zoom is probably the most popular of these 3 as far as my experience and the clients that I work with. And it's simply a video conferencing software that has advanced features for that particular service. So you can actually use it as a video conference. You can use it as a phone conference. You can use it to share your screen and make presentations and so forth, much like what we're doing right now on this platform. All right. And Switcher, another program. This program is a mobile production studio. So it's a little bit different than Zoom. It is at an affordable monthly rate is the way that you would access it. We're going to dive in depth in each of these, so I'm trying to restrain myself not to go too far, but a little bit different, but it does allow you to get content out to people, but we're talking about the back end yet again. So it's a back end program that you would use to actually share content out to other platforms. OBS, this one is it's pretty mainstream when you talk about people that are on YouTube that are gamers, for example. They use OBS to actually stream their games live, and they're playing the game, and they got people making donations. They've got how many people are watching, showing up on the side and popping up at the top, and all kinds of things like that. So OBS stands for Open Broadcaster Software. It's a free computer-based broadcasting software to stream anything from your computer. So it is highly flexible, which we'll talk a little bit about later on as we get into the presentation. So let's start with Zoom, right? So what Zoom is like I said, it's for webinars primarily, and especially in time of this type of pandemic that we're in, it has become quite in demand, just like any other conferencing platform. As people are, we've been isolated to our homes, or the social distancing requirements and things like that. This is a good go-to solution to meet those needs. It is very, very dependent upon interactivity. If you want to be interactive with your audience, this would be a type of program I would recommend. Just like we're doing now with GoToMeeting, it allows you to chat. It allows you to see the video faces of those who are on the webinar with you. And then also it's important for you to decide if you want to have a dedicated audience or not. So Zoom is unique in this whole discussion because it is the beginning and the end. So it's the behind the scenes and it's the stage when it comes to what you use and what your actual end clients use as well. So that everybody uses Zoom to actually interact with Zoom, right? A bit different than the other programs we're going to discuss. And then it also has a lot of helpful features built into it to make that experience pleasant for everybody. So as a presenter on Zoom, you could actually mute or unmute everyone. You can actually make it to where if someone wants to get into the conference call, or the video call, I should say, you have to admit them. So they can't just jump in from a link. They actually jump in, but then they go to a waiting room, and you have to say, I know who that is. Okay, I'll admit them in. And it goes without saying that you all may have seen situations where people have maliciously jumped into video chats and kind of caused an unpleasant experience for those who are already in there that were supposed to be. Zoom and plenty of other platforms, I'm sure, but specifically Zoom has some very good safety features built in that you can utilize to help avoid those type of situations. The other good thing about Zoom is that you can actually use it on the back end and on the front end on all devices. So you can start a meeting from your computer, but just like you can on your computer, you can start a meeting from your tablet or your phone as well. And your viewers can see the meeting from their computer, their phone, or their tablet. So everything in Zoom is self-contained. You have full access to use all the features that you have access to. As we get to the con side of it, it does have a fee. There's a cost to it. You can get a free version of it with some limitations, but the initial cost of it starts at $15 per month for the first plan, I guess you could say, and then it kind of grows from there. And it seems to go up pretty exponentially depending on how many more people you want to engage in your presentation and or how many licenses you need to actually be able to host your presentations. So that's something to keep in mind. And what I want to do is just kind of take you all to the actual Zoom site. And like I said, did I mention that there's a cost for it, right? So in our world, cost is more and more important, obviously, in this time, but even going forward, it's still important to manage the budget and make sure that everything that you're doing is going to be cost effective. And there can be a benefit to using Zoom. Actually, I had a meeting where I was on a panel discussion, and they were talking about college with college students and talking about experiences, and I was on there as the entrepreneur. And so they had us all on a panel, and they were streaming that to Facebook. So you can actually use Zoom and actually not just keep everything in Zoom, you can actually pay for a plan that allows you to stream that content to Facebook or to YouTube or to some type of platform like that live. So there are some benefits to paying for that additional cost. And then a quick tip, as we go through the presentation, that blue box at the bottom is going to always relate to a quick tip that you can make a note of, that if you're singing or if you're playing instruments, Zoom has a really cool feature that is called turn on the original audio, and that allows you to have a better audio quality experience because believe it or not, conference calling or webinar apps or programs, they actually they put a special effect on the voice to make sure that it sounds as best it can. So it does a lot of cancellation of noises at different volumes or different tones. But when you say turn on original audio, it allows you to get every note that you sing out or every note that you play, it actually will come through without being hindered by the algorithms in that particular program that is designed to really streamline for voice. You can turn that function off and say, I want you to just hear it exactly how I hear it in my room or in my studio or on my stage. And you can actually toggle that on and off during your presentation. So for singers and performers and things like that, that's a pretty helpful feature. And let me see if we can go to changing what we share here. And I'm gonna jump just to my website, to Google Chrome, and let you guys see what we got for what Zoom looks like. And how many people, Mariah, how many people did we have that said they actually use Zoom? Was there anybody that said they were familiar with it?
Yeah, for the most part, everyone is familiar with Zoom. It's the other two programs that they are not familiar with.
Okay, excellent. So I won't even go to the site of it. Can you guys still see my my presentation? No? All right, let me make sure. All right, like I told you, I'm used to using Zoom, so forgive me, you guys. Mariah said, yeah, we're gonna use something different. I said, okay, let me practice with it. I didn't get a chance to practice too much, but we'll be good. Can you guys see it now?
Yep, perfect.
Awesome. All right, so let's go on to our next slide. So Switcher, this is a fun one because it is, of the three that I'm talking about, it's probably the most mobile with the back end functionality of it. In comparison to Zoom, where you can use it on all the platforms, Switcher is a little bit different. It's very easy to use. It actually works only with iPhones and iPads, right? So that additional investment is going to be, if it's going to be, you know, to your benefit if you've already invested in an iPhone or iPad. It actually allows for a very clean presentation, so it looks very professional. Everything is animated, and what it does is it's designed to be like your own broadcasting studio. When I worked at Time Warner Cable, I actually started working with one of our television stations we had locally, which was called Metro Sports, and we actually worked all the Chiefs football games, the Kansas City Chiefs football games, the Royals games, and all that kind of stuff. And so I actually got paid to go to Chiefs games. So I was living in heaven. I mean, I just loved it. I never even got to pick up a camera. I actually sat in the back of a trailer, the production trailer, and I had about 25 different TV screens or monitors in front of me. and I actually was making notes of every single play and putting a time code to it so that later on for the post-production show, they could actually queue up based on the time that I gave them for that particular play by the player, right? And so Switcher is that big production trailer in your hand in an iPad. So you literally can switch from one camera to another. You can switch from showing a title slide or showing an image or a graphic. You can actually have things scrolling along the bottom. You can put your logo on the screen while you're talking. So it gives you that polish that makes your presentation look professional. However, Switcher is not a platform in and of itself. It actually is designed to go to a platform. So it's designed to stream to Facebook or stream to your website or stream to your YouTube channel or whatever it may be. So you plug that information in, and then whatever you're doing on your tablet, when you're switching back and forth between the cameras or putting in the titles and they're animating in and animating out, that shows up on your YouTube feed or your Facebook feed for your viewers to see. It is also available for a free trial. So I'm going to invite you all, as Mariah said, many of you may not have heard of it. Make a note of the name. It's called Switcher, and it is, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to see if I can get it to show up. It is designed for mobile use and for you guys to access it. So let's see if we can make this share. All right. So let's see here. Prices. So this is what Switcher Studio looks like, and in terms of the logo of it at least, and it's got all kinds of fun features which you can check out on the website, but it does have a price. So one of the cons is it is a cost. It starts out at about $40 per month, but that gives you pretty much complete access to what you would need to do on a basic level in terms of having access to all of the assets. You can pre-record content and upload it to your tablet and then play that back into your stream. So let's say you wanted to record like a quick commercial or some type of interview or something like that ahead of time. You could do that, upload it to your tablet, and then drag it into the live feed on the Switcher app on your device, and it actually will play just like how you would use your iPhone for the camera to stream live. So that is a very cool solution. It's very mobile. Very portable, but it is restricted to iPhones and iPads. So it does not work with Android. You can use a computer, but the computer usage is really based on if you're trying to do like a live chat with someone back and forth, you can actually do that to where you can have someone, you can send them a link and you can video chat with them from their computer or their tablet into your Switcher program. And so now everybody on Facebook can see this conversation between you and the person that you're live chatting with in a video chat, and you can adjust how it looks on the screen and everything like that. And you can also have your lower third titles coming in to say the title of who's talking and who's not talking or whatnot. You can put in your logo and all that stuff, and it can literally be a live production studio in the palm of your hand on a tablet, right? So it is a very cool program that is worth just checking out to see if it's something that your organization could really benefit from. And let's go back to our slides. And all right, so the cost is a big deal, but the cool thing, like I said, is that you can actually have a conversation with someone using Switcher and actually air that on a social media platform or a website of your choice. So it's really a back-end service, a back-end app that you would actually download the app on your iPad, you would download the app on your iPhone, and then you would dictate which one of those is going to be the switcher, which is like the production booth, who's going to be sliding the images in and out, who's going to slide the videos in and out, and then the other device will become the camera. So you can actually walk around with the iPhone. You can put it on a tripod if you want to and mount it, but you can actually connect up to 10 different iPhones or iPads to that one stream. And so you can switch between 10 different camera angles or put 2 camera angles in there at the same time. And that can help with this social distancing. You can have everybody in the same vicinity. As long as they're all on the same network, you can actually make sure that they're connected, and you can actually switch between people in different rooms or in different areas of a hall or a stage or something like that. And they can be up close with that iPhone camera, which is pretty cool.
And Gary, I'm going to ask a quick question. By network, sure. You mean all those devices on the same Wi-Fi network, correct?
Correct, absolutely. So what it'll do is when you get the app on your iPhone, it'll ask you, do you want this iPhone to be the switcher or do you want it to be a camera? and then you would select camera, and then the person that actually is holding, I would recommend using the iPad as the switcher production piece. So you would actually have an option on the iPad to say, okay, I want to use that iPhone. So they have to connect with each other, almost like pairing with Bluetooth, to where there's a handshake where they both say, yes, I want to be the camera, and the switcher says, okay, I want to use your camera. And now you can actually access that camera. So they do have to be on the same Wi-Fi network. Yep, good question. All right, so let's go on to the last one. There was a little bit of an anomaly as well. This last program is called OBS. As I said earlier, it stands for Open Broadcaster Software. Now, it's got a lot of pros that I think are important in comparison to the last two. So OBS is probably the most flexible of the first two, being that it is able to basically stream anything that you have on your computer screen. So if you want to do like we're doing, where I'm sharing different screens, you can do all of that in OBS. If you wanted to air a pre-recorded video, you can upload that and play that through OBS. If you wanted to have something scrolling across the bottom, or have your logo on one side, or you wanted to make multiple video feeds show up, like I said, gamers use this all the time, and they'll have a little video camera of themselves, their webcam in the corner, and then they got the big screen of their game that they're playing showing on the screen, and then they've got all these other little feeds going on in terms of showing how many people are watching, and showing who made a donation and things like that. So it is the most flexible, and it is actually free, which usually don't go together, right? So the most flexible programs that have the most use, availability of them, they usually cost the most. In this case, it actually is the free one. It works on Mac, it works on Windows, and it's completely compatible also with Linux computers. I think the majority of us, though, are going to be between one of those two, Mac or Windows. And so the cons of it are what you would imagine in terms of like learning how to maybe use a video editing software. Mariah and I were talking about her experience using a video editor that I actually use as a videographer, but trying to make a quick video out of it, if you're not familiar with it, can be quite daunting. OBS can be that way, but the cool thing about OBS is that it's pretty straightforward to get started. So you can just start just streaming just one big camera, one camera angle, and that's it. And as you get more comfortable with the software, you'll see yourself starting to get comfortable to say, okay, I want to put our logo in the top right corner, and you figure out how to do that. And it's really easy to do, but if you don't know what you're looking at, it can be a challenge to learn it, right? You can make it to where things scroll across the bottom. Like I said, you can say, you know what, I want to show two different camera angles on the same screen and arrange them. It's literally that production studio that I was telling you guys about, that TV stations use when they're filming the Grammys or something like that, and they're saying cut to camera 2, cut to camera 5. You can literally do that with OBS. You have complete control of the audio in the software as well, and complete control of the video and the content that goes into the live stream. And just like Switcher, it's completely designed to be a back-end program. So you literally are working behind the scenes to get something up on to YouTube, or something that's going to show on Facebook. And all you would do is actually set up the stream to connect to OBS in the settings of your OBS program on your computer. You would say, okay, this is my YouTube link, this is my YouTube key, and then you would actually have it connected, and you'd say start streaming on OBS, and then YouTube will actually read that, and it'll start streaming whatever's on your live feed screen on OBS. So it's a really cool program. If we got time, I want to try to give you guys an idea of what it looks like in terms of possibilities, but make notes of any questions you might have. All right. The other thing about it that's a con is that it's not mobile. You've got to use a computer. You've got to use, a desktop computer of some sort. But even if you have a Windows Surface device, which counts as a computer, that would make it mobile. I don't know how easy of an experience it would be, but it would definitely be something you could use. As long as it's got an operating system that's Windows or Mac or Linux, you should be good. It works best with the bigger screen, because then you can actually drag and drop different pieces where you want and really customize it the way you want it to do. And that learning curve is real, but at the same time, it's free, right? So in exchange for the dollars that you may have spent, you might exchange it for time to say, I'm going to learn, and I might spend 15 minutes a day just playing with this, or reading about it, or watching a YouTube video about how to use this particular program. Because I promise that this is what I actually used when I was using Facebook. I did all of my live Facebook stuff using OBS. And at that time, that was 3 or 4 years ago, actually, that I was doing that a lot. I didn't know much about OBS, but I was able to get my feeds through, and actually everything I did was pre-recorded. So I would record my show, or my little, I would do a lot of spoofs, a lot of short films, like short videos and things like that. And me and my wife would, we would work the cameras and get it together, and I would edit all that. And then in the next day or that next week, I would actually go into OBS, connect it to my Facebook account through the settings, and just upload or stream that particular video as if it was something I was playing through Facebook. And like I said, I've never used my phone to stream a live video on the Facebook. I've always used OBS. So it actually will set you apart because you can use high quality cameras, you can use high quality audio, and you can set up your lighting and all that kind of stuff the way that you want, and then play it. Kind of like how you get your favorite TV program that you watch at a certain time. You can do that with OBS in terms of everything is pre-recorded and all you're doing is uploading it. All right. And so, like I said, trying to go live can be a lot of pressure. And so OBS can really help alleviate a lot of that by making sure that you can pre-record it the way you want. You can do multiple takes as you need to, and then edit all that together, and you can upload it to OBS from your computer. You can do the same thing with Switcher, but you got to upload it to your iPad in order for it to actually play to Switcher. So an extra step is there, but it is pretty flexible, but it's not free. Switcher's not free as opposed to OBS, a very free program and open for you to use. All right, so those are the programs. That brings us to our Q&A. Mariah, you got anything for us?
Yes, we have quite a few questions coming through.
Excellent.
Let me scroll through. Okay, so Matthew Shepard, hi Matthew, was asking, he asked a question about how do you use higher quality mics in Switcher, and I did respond that we were going to talk about mics a bit later in the presentation.
Sure.
So just to acknowledge that that question was asked,
Excellent.
and hopefully we can answer that question for you, Matthew, a little bit later in the presentation. And then Emily Behrman, Emily, wanted to ask a question about, just to clarify, so Switcher does not work with Android or PCs, correct?
That is correct. It only works with iPhones and iPads exclusively. It's literally through an app on the App Store. So you would actually download it through the App Store, and it's a free app, obviously, but you pay monthly. You would sign up on your computer. So you would sign up for the program on your computer, but you would actually have to manage it through the app on your iPhone and iPad. Yeah.
Okay. When this is just a follow-up question coming from you can use Switcher as a program on your iPhone or iPad. The cameras that you're switching around, do all those cameras have to be Mac products as well?
Yes, the actual cameras have to come from the iPad or the iPhones that you're using. So everything is in that ecosystem, except when you're trying to do a live chat. So the live chat feature allows you to just send a link directly from the app to whoever you want to. So you can send it in a text message if you wanted to. They can click that link and they could stream from, I don't have an iPhone, so they could stream from their phone, and you would get that feed into your Switch as a camera angle, I guess you could say. But that's the only one that is not required to be an iPhone or an iPad camera.
Okay, cool. And then Heather had a question. Why would you use OBS to record instead of using a recorded or filmed video with a regular camera and then uploading that? So why would you go through OBS as opposed to just doing it?
That's a good point. So what I was trying to explain was exactly what she said for that second part of the question, is that I actually recorded everything without OBS being used at all. I actually handheld my cameras. I used to use DSLR cameras. Here's one of them right here. So it's a Canon camera. Okay, so you guys can see that. So I actually used a camera like this to record most of my videos, and then I took the SD card out, put that into my computer, and then I edited that particular footage and made it how I wanted it, made all my cuts and all that kind of stuff. And then I opened up OBS at the day I wanted to actually stream it, and I actually just sent that file to my live feed that way. So exactly how you initially thought it would make sense, that's the exact way that I intended to use it, and I did use it that way. So yes, you don't do any video editing in OBS. You only upload your videos, your pictures, or whatever it is that you're trying to feed. The only reason I would say that you can record in it and it's beneficial is if you're a gamer. So gamers actually just play live, and they're actually talking through their headsets or whatnot to the audience if there's anybody listening like on YouTube. So they would actually record and stream using OBS, because it will allow you to do the same, both of those at the same time. So that would be the only ideal way that I would recommend that it's useful, because you're not really trying to edit as you're playing a game. You're just trying to get that stream out. And there's a that's a really big to do, apparently. I don't play video games, so I'm not a big fan of that process, but at the same time, I know it's a big audience for it. So that's the only time I would say that you would actually use it for that type of setup.
Okay, thank you. And then Matthew had another question. Can you use phones as cameras in OBS?
You can, actually. That's one of my favorite things to do. I actually, I use my iPad as a camera. It's a lot easier to use an Apple device in OBS because it's a free download program that I use on my iPad that actually turns it into a camera. And we'll talk about how I connect my DSLR to OBS as well later on as we get to the next half. But you also, I think somebody mentioned, I think you said about the audio. You can control the audio as well in OBS with each feed that you put into your computer. And we'll talk about how you can get those different feeds in there with different, whatever hardware you need.
Perfect. And Clint has a question. Hi, Clint. Can OBS upload to YouTube and Facebook at the same time?
That I do not believe is possible. You will probably need another platform to do that, but it's a good question. I can't say that I've done it, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. So let's table that for now. And Mariah, what I'll do is I'll probably just follow back up with you once I do get a question, and maybe you can email it out to the group for sure. But yeah. I'm sure you got a lot of people, they'll probably figure it out the same time I do, if not before. But I'm not quite sure if you can stream the two at the same time using the OBS. I have seen streaming programs that allow you to do, they would give you their own key, and then they would actually, you would upload all your keys to that platform, your streaming keys, and then you would send your feed to that platform, and that platform would then kind of branch out to all the different social media outlets. So I'm familiar with that process. I've not tried to do two different streams straight from OBS though, personally.
Okay. And what I am taking from that question, Clint, is that's a really good thing maybe for us to cover in another streaming webinar or a marketing class about what kind of platforms will let you do that on,
right.
or what kind of tools will let you do that on multiple platforms. And so Elena also had a question. How are people, hold on, I'm
That's
reading.
all right, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Elena. She put in like a little asterisk to fix part of how the question was worded.
Oh, okay.
So how are people able to access other than YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram? Is it a special link that you would send out via email? So like Zoom or those kinds of things?
Yes, so for Zoom, since it's all self-contained, Zoom, you actually would send an invitation, and you can actually send that out as a link. So that link, you can send it in a text message, you can put it as a calendar invite, you can send it out in an email to your mailing list if you have one. So Zoom is very unique in that way. The Switcher program is really not even a platform that people would interact with as much. So it's really designed for you to actually send it to a social media platform. So with the YouTube and Facebook, though, you can share your live feed links as well from the social media platform itself. And that would be the way that I would recommend doing it. And then also the possibility is you can direct people to your website, right? So there's ways that you can actually embed your streams from those different platforms. Like you can embed a YouTube video to a website. You can embed your stream to your website on some website platforms as well. And then you can just point everybody to your website and say, hey, go to my site, whatever it is.com. And they would actually be able to get access to it from there. I see a lot of churches that do that, where they just send their feeds or their streams directly to their church website, and they just promote their church website that way to keep it simple.
Great. So I'll reiterate something that Garry said in the beginning, that these programs, other than Zoom, so Zoom is a streaming platform, Switcher and OBS are platforms that allow you to better manage your content and then use how it gets streamed out. So that might be through Zoom, it might be through Facebook or Instagram, and we'll have subsequent classes after this that talk specifically about Facebook live streaming, and then another one about Instagram. So we'll get a little bit more into the details of that. And then Lee Hartman wanted to know, how does OBS align with streaming rights? Do you that question?
I don't know the details of if there's I don't think there's a conflict with it at all in terms of streaming rights, because all you're doing is you're actually going to YouTube, for example, and you're getting your YouTube link or your website, I guess you could say this, directly from YouTube, and then you're getting a stream key that YouTube provides. Same way with Facebook. If you have a like a separate page, for example, other than your personal page, let's say you have an organization page, you would actually be able to have in your publishing tools, I believe it is, an option to say, okay, for video, I want to actually get a stream key. And so those social media platforms, they work hand in hand with that type of setup. And so they expect it. So I'm fairly certain that there's not a usage right whatsoever, because it's an equal exchange where you get the key from Facebook or YouTube, and then you paste that into OBS, and those keys are designed for people to be able to do exactly what I shared.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the next section. If you have more questions for Garry, put it in the chat. We'll have some time. Elena, I see your question. If we have time, we will review that towards the end of the presentation. So,
all right. Excellent. Great questions, you guys. Very good questions. So let's go ahead to our next half of the discussion. This is all about tools and hardware, right? So, so behind the scenes, somebody asked earlier about audio and microphones. You all that that work with the arts and things like that, you know that audio is major, right? So there's a big deal with making sure that you can get as best audio as you can. And unfortunately, your computer microphone is not going to probably be the best for that. For a number of different reasons, but today we're going to talk about some ways to improve that. So an audio interface, out of these three, this is the same question that I had on the other one. Make a note of any of those three that you are, let's say any three that you're not familiar with. So just make a note of the one that you're not familiar with, or two if you've not heard of audio interfaces, which I'm sure everybody's probably heard of microphone, so that's not going to be a throw out. But the video capture card, have you heard of audio interfaces or video capture cards before? Put the one that you have not heard of, or both that you've not heard of before, and we're going to dive in a little bit about what the pros and cons of using those will be, right? So the audio interface is a device which allows your computer or tablet to use standard microphones, and so or just a different audio for your microphone for your computer. So I'm holding one up. If you guys can see me in the chat window, I can turn it off. Let me see here. This is that learning curve, you guys. All right, and all right, can you guys see me? Am I on the big screen now, Mariah? Look, I don't.
I was muted. I have you on grid view, but okay. Yes, I can see what you're holding up.
Cool. So I'm holding up a little audio interface. This is actually a recorder as well, but on the side, it's got a port. Let's see if we can get some light on it. It's got ports where I can plug in regular microphones. It has 4 ports for that. And at the top, it's got an actual microphone as well. So I can actually use this as a microphone, but I can plug in 4 other microphones to the side, and I can adjust the volume with these little knobs here for those microphones. So this is an audio interface. This is, you know, it can be confusing, but this is the brand of this is actually called Zoom. It's not an affiliation with the webinar company whatsoever, but it is a reliable brand. This is a bigger one. And the thing about audio interface, it actually plugs in with a USB. So on the side here, I can plug this into my computer. And what I'll do is I would change the settings in my computer to say, for audio microphone, I want to select Zoom. For audio output, this has got a little speaker on it, but I would say keep your speaker in your computer. But your microphone, you would say, point your computer to this. This is another one that's a little bit smaller. It is a Zoom recorder as well, but it is an audio interface because I can plug up the USB to my computer, and I can use this as the microphone. It doesn't have a way for me to plug in bigger microphones, but this is a really high quality audio recording microphone that you can use, and it will immediately increase the value of your audio. You can plug up a small microphone to it or something like that on the side and pin it to you as a lapel or something like that. But this is just a really good quality microphone that it happens to be an audio interface as well. And I'm gonna show you guys just a quick, well, I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that in a second. I'm gonna go back. So Microphones, we all are pretty familiar with those. There's a lot of different options when it comes to microphones. Okay, they can be wireless, they can be dynamic, they can be condenser, they can be boom microphones, they can be USB microphones. So there's a lot of options when it comes to microphones. For you all, when it comes to live streaming, they can all play a part, right? So I use lapel wireless microphones for the work that I do with my clients. I just did a shoot this morning with the organization, and we were outside, so I used a little kit like this. This is just a little Rode Wireless Go microphone, and it has a little receiver that I can plug into my camera right here, and then this is the actual microphone itself. They both are the same size, so that is a wireless microphone, but you might use a dynamic microphone, which is something like what you see here, the Shure microphone that you guys may have seen before. You see them in concerts all the time. So microphones can be all kinds of different ways you connect them. And then video capture cards. This particular device is designed to allow you to, just like how you can connect a microphone to your computer with an audio interface, a video capture card allows you to do the same thing with a video camera, right? And so I'm going to unplug one of mine here. I got one plugged into my computer. Excuse the noise of my keys over here and whatever that sound was. All right, so this is an example of the size. It's literally, it can fit in the palm of your hand, but it has HDMI on one side that you would plug your camera into, and then the other side it has some type of USB out connection to connect to your computer, and then you can connect this to any camera that has HDMI, and you would get the quality of that camera going into your computer because this interface or this capture card. And each of these, basically, they just translate what your camera's doing to tell your computer how to read it. It's like an interpreter, okay? Same way with the audio interface. It interprets that signal coming from that regular microphone so that your computer can understand it. So let's dive into these individually. So audio interfaces, they can be mobile, right? Like the ones I held up, these are all mobile. I keep this in my backpack, actually. I take this with me on the road when I go do video shoots because it is a high quality recorder as well. So I actually record into this, and it has an SD card, so it saves my recordings, my audio recordings in it. But audio interfaces, they get great sound quality with real microphones because they're like, you guys have probably seen like those soundboards that you might see in the back of a concert hall, or even on the side stage of an actual concert, or at the back of a church or something like that. They've got this big soundboard with all these sliders. This is basically that, but it's just a miniature version of it designed just to hold microphones. You can plug instruments up to them as well, and you would just adjust the volume accordingly because instruments usually are going to be a little bit louder, so you would turn those down quite a bit more than you would a microphone, right? And they actually help reduce the microphone hum that you would hear from the room, just the room noise. These actually help isolate to where all that you're hearing is what's coming into the microphone that particular person is using. Now, this is not a real example because this is not plugged up, but you know, it would sound different if I actually used this device. And now the cons of it, you do have to pay for them, right? So there's a cost for audio interfaces. The quality ones, the ones I recommend to my clients, usually start at about $120, and that would get you usually one microphone connection. But what I would encourage you all to do is just go to Amazon, which I'll do here, and just look at type in the term audio interface and see what comes up. And I'll give you an idea of what happens when I actually click on that. So here's what I got. So here's this is the one I use, the Zoom H6, but this is another brand, Focusrite. That's a big one. They're always red typically, so you'll see that. Behringer's another popular brand. I use Steinberg's, for example, for my audio interfaces. They come in handy, especially like, for example, if you want to start like a podcast, you would typically use an audio interface. And all these devices that you're seeing here, they actually connect to a real microphone typically, and they'll connect to your computer with a USB. And they make it to where you can, your computer can read that audio, but it's going through that device, so it actually is a better quality. All right. And this is actually the one I use here, Steinberg UR44. So I highly recommend it, not because it's special, it's just because it's the one I have. But any of these, I'm sure, will give you better quality audio than what you're getting from just your computer itself. And actually I have that one plugged up to my computer as well. And I usually use that when I'm doing my webinars and things like that. I just don't use it unless I'm using Zoom because I'm more familiar with Zoom. So, so let's go back to the slides. All right. So that's a little bit about the audio interfaces. Let's talk more about the next step, but let's talk about that real quick tip. So some of the rest of the cons, I'm sorry, extra equipment to manage. So the con is you will have to have that available. So if you're not going to be in the same place every time for your live stream, you need to, carry this equipment with you. It's basically a power cord, a USB cord, the device, and any cords that you're going to plug your microphones with to it. So you would need that along with the microphones themselves, right? The tip that I would recommend for you guys to understand is that better audio is more important than better video quality, especially when you're live streaming, because people are very forgiving of choppy video, but audio is very hard because that's the thing that they're relying on. That makes it good. Even in short films and videos, we always emphasize the importance of having good audio is even more important than having great video. Because people really need to hear it well, and that's where these will come in handy. All right, microphones, they're usually better than computer mics as well. Cheap microphones probably are not. So I would stay away from very cheap microphones, the ones that you might see that are maybe $10 or $12, $25, something like that. Unless they're probably going into a cell phone, they're probably not going to be worth investing in. You can get USB microphones that work great with the computer right out the gate. So you wouldn't need an audio interface with a USB microphone because it connects directly to your computer with a USB itself. And so that is a big plus for those. But the challenge with those is that they typically don't connect to a real sound system. They only connect with computers, right? So I like to be versatile. So I'll have this microphone and I'll just get the audio interface so I can use this at my computer, and I can also use it on stage, or I can use it to do a presentation and connect it to a real speaker or something like that. And as we get to the end of this, it's going to be important for you to understand what works best for you. So I'm not giving you a recommendation because it's what I do. I'm giving you the idea to understand what's going to be important for you. And for me, that versatility was important because I do work in different places. For you, if you're only going to do it from your computer, that USB mic is going to be a really good investment. All right. If you're wireless, you can be further from your computer and still have a good audio quality. So like I told you, with those little microphones I use, I can literally walk around my office or wherever it is and be far away from my computer, but they're connected to the audio interface, the actual microphone is, and so I can still have good quality going into my stream, but I'm 20 feet away or 10 feet away from my computer. I'm not here just straight ahead looking at you. So that is a benefit. It actually ups the production value for people to see, oh wow, how come they're so far away and I still hear them so clear? There's a lot of value to that. And then the cost is a con, obviously, but you got to pay for it, right? You got to pay for a microphone. Now, the benefit is you all may already have invested in microphones. The question is just making sure you have the right equipment to connect them to your computer. All right. So I found some good quality microphones that are comparable. Like this is a Shure FM58. It's a pretty standard microphone. It runs about $100 by itself, just like this. There's another microphone that looks just like it that's made by Behringer, and it actually is $30. And this is something that I recommend a lot of my clients get because it's equal value in terms of quality. The sound is a little bit different, but it's not a bad different. Each microphone has its own sound, so that's not uncommon. But it is a good durable microphone, and it's very standard in terms of the way it works, and it's it just does everything well. And you can get that as low as $30, and I would definitely recommend that. It's made by Behringer. So what I'll do is I'll try to send those links to Mariah after we're done, so you guys can kind of do some exploration on them. All right. Same thing. It's extra equipment to manage, right? So I get that, but it comes with the benefit of having better audio. And then some require audio interfaces. If you get a USB microphone, you're going to probably, or not, if you don't get a USB microphone, I'm sorry, you're going to probably need to get that audio interface to make it connect, because there's no USB on the back of this microphone or the bottom of it. That USB connection to the computer is coming from the audio interface device like this, that has this, but also has the USB on the side for being able to connect it to the computer. Big tip, phones have great microphones. They have been doing microphones, they've been in that business for a long time, and they have really mastered it. iPhones especially have really good microphones, so even if you're far away, they still sound really good. So keep that in mind if you're streaming from your phone. The quality of the audio is going to be pretty good if it's a good quality phone like an iPhone. All right. And then this last one, the camera capture cards. This was one that you all said you might not have heard of so much. It is allows you to use a DSLR camera, right? DSLR cameras allow you to use different lenses. So this is a pretty big lens with a regular DSLR camera that you can use, and it allows you to connect this type of camera to your computer. So instead of using your webcam, you can use a DSLR, you can use a camcorder, you can use a production camera, and you can put it in different angles now. So it's not just locked in directly in front of you, it could be off to the side. You can have one camera over there, one camera over here, and you can cut back and forth during your live stream on Facebook or whatever. OBS is really good for helping you do that. And it works with OBS. Obviously, they work really great with that. Zoom, you can have multiple camera angles if you have a camera capture card as well. And I typically would do that as well. I would actually have an angle coming from this side, which is where one of my main cameras is right now. So that is a benefit. And you can use a camera capture card typically with any camera as long as it's got an HDMI cord on it or port on it. There are some cameras that work better than others because you don't want to see the menu screen of your camera. So camcorders, they never do that, but some DSLR cameras will still show like your settings on the screen. So you have to have the right kind of DSLR or mirrorless camera that will make sure that when it sends the HDMI signal out, that it doesn't send the menu settings to it, to your computer. So that's the only thing to be mindful of. It's all based on your camera though for that. These start at about $120 as well, and they're extra equipment, but they're beneficial, as I said earlier. So this is an example of the size of a camera capture card. HDMI goes in here, and then USB comes out on the other side. So they're very manageable. Like I said, I could keep this. I carry this in my backpack from time to time if I'm going to go do a live shoot and stream and so forth. And they usually do require drivers, and drivers are just software that you download for free that are made by the manufacturer so that your computer can translate what the device is actually trying to send to it. In this case, the video. All right. So a tip is using a different camera angle adds depth to your video, and it can creatively engage your audience. I was just on a meeting Monday, and one of my clients, they go, "What are you looking at?" Because I was looking at my computer, but my camera angle was off from the side, and they go, "We see you, and it looks good, but how are you doing that?" And they're so used to webcams, they didn't even think that you could plug up another camera. And so they were like, "How did you do that? I want to figure that out. I want to do that myself." So it can add that intrigue and up that production value from doing some work a little bit on the back end from behind the scenes. All right. So my final thoughts, and we'll jump into questions as we have time right after this, is that I want to encourage you all to make time to learn new programs, right? It is something that's imperative to the future of what we're doing in the day that we're living in right now. This technology and this media access we have can be at our fingertips, or we can keep it at a distance. And I want to encourage you guys to bring it close and learn as much as you can about it. And then take what you've learned today and just discuss it with your colleagues. Start conversations about it, because you might find some things that they bring out from what you share with them that you didn't even think about that can help add value to that new device or new program that you were thinking about, right? And then consider all the equipment that you already own. Before you add new tools, always go and take an inventory. What do we already have? Because I was working with a client this weekend on Sunday, and she had a closet full of things because her husband was like a musician. So he actually was a singer, artist or whatnot, local artist. And he had invested in a lot of audio interfaces, a lot of microphones, a lot of cords and all this stuff. And she wanted to start a podcast. She literally had everything in the house that she needed, and she didn't even know it, right? And so she was asking me, what should I go buy? And I go, let's see what your husband has first. And he wasn't using any of that equipment because he had some newer equipment, and it was great. And so you all might have, as an organization, something that you already have in terms of microphones, right? Or you might know an organization that may be willing to loan those out to you to use during this time period, right? And then the last point is, if you never start, you'll never get better. I personally, like I said, I don't expect myself for my first effort to be my best. I just know I got to give a good first effort so I can get started to get even better. And I want you guys to understand the same thing, is that all these things, it seems like it can be a lot. It can be daunting, especially in the situation that we're in across the globe. But take a dive, take a leap of faith and say, you know what, I'm going to start trying to figure this thing out and not be intimidated by it, and just take time to learn more about it. And it'll get better over time. It'll get better over time, I guarantee. All right, Mariah, Q&A time. Do we have time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we do have time. We have a few more minutes left. I'm comfortable to go a couple minutes over if people still have questions. But before we get to Q&A, I just want to say thank you for putting this together and sharing all of your knowledge with us. And for everyone on the call. I know this is a lot of information. We'll be sending you follow-up, and also know that this is being recorded, so you can go back and watch it as many times as you want. We'll send some questions for feedback to you all too, for me to know, you know, what we can change in the future, and also some follow-up topics that we can address. So I'm going to go to the Q&A really fast here. And just so if everyone hasn't been watching the chat, there's been some good conversation about song rights. So over there, and we also record the whole chat. So we'll send out that information as well. So Anna Joy had asked if there were examples of good USB mics. And after she asked that question, you actually addressed it, Gary, and so you'll be sending that list to me, and I will send it out to everybody. There's also, Clint has a question. If you have thoughts on using Zoom for live interview into OBS for its features.
Actually, yes, I think it's a really good idea, because it allows you to take what you're saying. For example, I have the free version of Zoom, so I don't pay to get access to actually stream directly from Zoom to Facebook, but I can take my Zoom window, right, my Zoom video conference window, and capture that through OBS and upload that through a stream or a feed to my Facebook or my YouTube account and stream it live. So there are a lot of benefits. Like I said, with OBS, you literally can stream anything on your computer. Like I said, a lot of people just stream their screen. The gamers do. They just stream whatever's going on. They stream whatever's going on their computer. You can literally stream anything that's going on your computer, and the type of work that you do will kind of dictate that. And the cool thing is you can make it a small window right here, and then you can put a title up there at the top. You can put some, you can put your website page that you're working on. Like for what I did with you all today, I could have had my slideshow on this side, and I could have had my internet window right here, and I could have put a title of what I was talking about down here, and all that would have been managed and streamed to you guys. And all I would be doing is clicking through the slides or going to the website, and OBS is streaming it all because it's capturing what's on those windows. And all I did was set it up in the format that I wanted to look like. Kind of like how you set up a slideshow, you move things around. You would do the same thing with OBS. You move things where you want, and you put in your stream key for where you want it to go, and you go live, and it actually sends all that content out. So yes, I definitely would recommend that.
Great, thank you. And Bill Sundahl had a question about knowing the process or tools needed to share a Zoom to an organization's Facebook Live account. Bill, we will be addressing that actually next week in a class that's specific about Facebook Live streaming. And then just a lot of people thanking you, Gary, for all of your excellent comparisons. I don't see any more questions. So last call to anyone that wants to unmute and ask a question or share any comments.
I can ask a quick question, if you can hear me okay. Do you have an example, like when you're streaming, so let's say you're doing a Zoom meeting and then also streaming that live through OBS, is there a way to like record that, capture that whole thing, and do you have an example of that?
There is a way to capture it. What I'll do, I don't necessarily have an example right off just because I'm using my webcam and I unplugged my camera interface. But I can let me see if I can share my screen with you guys to let you see how OBS looks, just to kind of add a little bit of clarity to it as best I can at least. And let's see if it'll pick up. So you guys are just gonna see my entire screen, I think. Oh no, okay, I'll select OBS. All right. So with OBS, there are two sides. So this is my preview side and this is my program side. And I'm gonna just show you guys. I was doing some testing with some things. I was doing some testing with some churches and some organizations I work with. So this is, for example, like a scroll wheel or scroll at the bottom. They want their phone number and their other information there. So I don't have any cameras connected to my to my OBS. Let's see if my FaceTime camera will come up. And all these things are all preset. Yeah, even my FaceTime won't show up. My FaceTime camera is on my computer, but since it's being used by this other software with the GoToMeeting, it's not showing up here because it's being used by the computer. So I would have to have my other camera plugged up. But if I wanted this to go live, I would just say transition, and it puts it over here. And then on the bottom right of OBS, this is where your settings are to say, I want to start streaming, I want to start recording. You can do both at the same time. But in your settings, you would have to get where you want it to stream to. You would select where you want it to go. And they have a bunch of presets for it. Can you guys see my screen okay still with the little box that popped up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so they have services. So they have a list of different ones, but you can do a custom one. But like Facebook, Restream, somebody mentioned about how you can send things out to multiple different platforms at the same time. That would be a program that I know of called Restream is one that you can add to that discussion later on. But you can, they got options for Twitter, for Periscope. I can show all, and there's a bunch of different places you can stream to. I don't use half of any of those. As you guys know, I don't even have a Facebook account, but I do stream to YouTube, and I've streamed to Facebook in the past, and I would put that information here, and then I would copy the stream key from that particular platform, and it's encrypted. You can hit show, but that's something that's unique to your user account, so you never want to show that with it to anybody. You just want to paste it in and then hit OK. And then once you hit OK, you can say start streaming, and you got to make sure that you got to set up on the other end if you need to. With Facebook, you start at Facebook, get the key, keep Facebook open, you paste the key in OBS, and then you can start streaming, and they both are open at the same time. But yeah, it's really a mixed bag. So I was working on something here where I had a video right here from my DSLR camera, and then I had my iPad showing on this side of the screen right here, and I had them going at the same time. And I was pricing on that just the other day because I was working on something for another client, and so it was just opportunities to do anything pretty much that you want to do using OBS as if you were a live production studio. So like your NBC or ABC or something, this is the kind of stuff that they do. This is just a free version of it that doesn't by any means make it less valuable or less impactful. It just is open. It's an open broadcast system. You can pay for programs like this, and you can pay a pretty hefty amount for them. I like this one because it is quite comparable in features, and it's very stable. So yeah, I definitely would recommend OBS for stuff like that. Good question.
Great. Yeah, so in the interest of time, I'm going to close it out for questions, but I have some great feedback for follow-up classes after this, and I'm going to send out a feedback survey to everyone along with all of the information from this class and the slides, and the recordings, everything that you'll need to kind of revisit all of this. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Garry.
Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, see you guys later.